back from the border had what he called a harrowing experience there is Congressman Buddy Carter from Georgia. And Congressman, also our feature story today on the Georgia Star News. Go to georgiastarnews.com for real news all the time, no fake news there. Congressman, thank you for being on today. You just got back from the border, and by reading some of the accounts you had, you were aghast at what you saw. Congressman, what is going on down there?
Well, you know, I was aghast to say the least. I will tell you, I went down there knowing that it was a crisis. When I got down there, I realized it's a disaster, and I mean a full-blown disaster. What happened down there is they have been overwhelmed. There's no question about it. They are overwhelmed, and it is out of control. For instance, a Customs and Border Patrol facility that is a processing facility that has a capacity of 250. They had 3,500 people on Friday. And of that 3,500, 2,600 of them were children. Unbelievable. Not only that, but what you're looking at now is a pod, what they refer to as a pod. Those pods have a capacity of 33. And that pod, well, on Friday, had 395 people in each pod. Unbelievable. I mean, they're literally on top of each other. It's inhumane what they're doing right now. And the worst part about this is what is happening is it's taking the Border Patrol agents who are trained to monitor and police our border, is taking them off of the border. They're having to be in the processing facility, and essentially what they're doing is social work, and therefore the cartels are just having a free-for-all with drugs coming across our border. I mean, they'll flood one area of the border with hundreds of illegal immigrants coming in, and while the Customs and Border Patrol agents are trying to take care of that, then they're smuggling drugs in another area. We had a report from the Brownsville Border Patrol station that said that there was a 23-mile stretch of border that normally has 15 to 20 agents monitoring it. Today, on Friday, they had 3 agents. Now, there's no way that 3 agents can monitor 23 miles. It's unbelievable how porous that border is and how people are just flocking over.
Unbelievable. So they've got 10, 12x capacity. The Border Patrol agents that are trained to secure the border are doing basically babysitting things and social work. And how is this number of unaccompanied children, Representative Carter, how are they getting in?
Well, they're just coming across the border. Now, understand, this is very important, and this was just mind-boggling to me and appalling to me. You do not come across that border unless you pay the cartels. Those coyotes will not let you come across that border. They're the best deterrent that we got right now. The only thing is they'll take money and bring you across. But if you don't pay them, then you're not coming across. They are making millions of dollars. Unbelievable what's going on down there. And now you see a border wall that is under construction. We went to Mission, Texas, and we went to a community there that had been approved for a border wall 121 miles long. And they had completed 10 miles of it and stopped construction. You looked over there, they had equipment, they had supplies just sitting there rusting because this administration, the Biden administration, had stopped the construction of the wall. Just ridiculous.
Congressman, what did Joe Biden think was going to happen here when he stopped construction on the wall, gave everybody an invitation, said that everybody would be kept safe and that we were going to have open arms? And so it made this invitation, spread the word. Now people are coming across with Biden T-shirts on, expecting to get fed, taken care of. When you obviously talk to people on the other side of the aisle, the Democrats, what did they think was going to happen?
Absolutely. There's nothing else that could have happened. I mean, essentially Joe Biden sent a message to Central America, we're open, come on. And that's exactly what they're doing. And I can't articulate just how bad it is. It's even worse than what I'm describing here, because when they're coming over here, not only are they coming over here, but we went to one facility, the Brownsville Border and Customs Patrol facility, and what we saw there is a small facility, and it had room for 28 children. Out of that 28 children, 21 of them were infected with COVID. They tested positive for the COVID vaccine, or excuse me, for the COVID virus. You know, I went fishing um, the first week in February in Costa Rica, and before I could come back over into this country, I had to get a COVID test. Paid $150 for it, and I had to prove that I was negative before I could come back into the country. What I should have done is just gone up to the border and walked across, and I'd saved $150. I mean, it's just ridiculous what's going on up there.
And there's no end in sight. So when you look at these children, these illegal migrants that are housed in these facilities that they're supposed to house 35. You got 3,500 in them. What are going to become of these children? Where do they go, Congressman Carter?
And John, that was the saddest part. I mean, to look at these children, they're in a foreign country. They're by themselves. Many of them are unaccompanied. Some of them had their parents, but most of them are unaccompanied. The fear in their face, it will just break your heart to see what's happening here. We have got to stop this right now. We've got a humanitarian crisis at the border. It is a full-blown disaster, and it's a humanitarian disaster. And if this administration does not do something, I mean, after all, 21 days ago, the president gave Kamala Harris the responsibility of taking care of the border. Yet she's not even been there. She's not been there in that 21 days. She needs to see what I saw. She needs to see what the rest of us have seen when we go to the border. This is unbelievable what's going on down there.
So walk us through, like, what happens. And one of the facilities you went to, the first one, you said there were 350 children there. Like, what's the time frame? How long do they stay? And what's the end game with them?
Good question. What happens is that they've actually set up a temporary processing center right across from the Rio Grande, right under a bridge. And a lot of them come there. In fact, they told us that more of the illegals come to that one area than all the other areas combined. And this is in McAllen, Texas. They come to that processing center there as a temporary processing center, and then they take them by bus or vans to the processing centers in Donna and in other areas. And there, they're supposed to, by law, stay in that processing center that is run by Customs and Border Patrol for 72 hours. On average, they are staying 130 hours now. And they told us that there was one girl who had been there for 28 days, and there were 10 who had been there for over 21 days. And that's against the law now. Keep that in mind. After they are processed through the CBP processing center, then they're turned over to Health and Human Services. And that's really, I went on this trip with the Doctors Caucus. I'm a pharmacist by profession, and I went with the Doctors Caucus, and we really wanted to see what was going on with the unaccompanied children, because I serve on the Energy and Commerce Health Subcommittee, and we have jurisdiction over Health and Human Services. Health and Human Services has the responsibility of the unaccompanied children. Now, that's where the bottleneck is, because Health and Human Services cannot handle all these numbers. It is their responsibility to find the family members that are identified by the children and try to place them with the family members, or to put them in a foster home or something where they can stay with someone until they can identify a family member who can take them.
So what about this? Today we just learned that there's this one company, Family Endeavors, ties to the Biden administration. On the second phase of this, what you were saying, where they're taken into the care of the HHS, Health and Human Services, and then they're put in housing paid for by the federal government through this one organization called Family Endeavors. So they got a $530 million no-bid contract. So we have no idea what the costs involved are, what their profit is. No bid, they get it. And now we've got states that are turning them down, even though it's so-called free money, because that's not reality from the federal government. But you got Henry McMaster of South Carolina said no. Kim Reynolds, Iowa, said no, I don't want them. I've got a responsibility here to my own children, getting them back in school. Now Pete Rickles today of Nebraska, other Midwestern states, said no, I'm out. He said I have a policy. Nebraska children first. That's his policy. So you got governors now that will not take them. You got 18,000 of them, and you got this company with a no bid contract. This thing is turning into a cash machine for Biden operatives and cronies, is it not, sir?
It is indeed. And now don't forget what the latest proposal to send cash payments to Mexico and the other Central American countries and to encourage them to keep the people down there. The most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I mean, I can't believe that it would even consider something like it. Big problem with what you just described is that there's no end in sight. They're not slowing down. They are coming across that border in droves. And I just don't see an end in sight unless we go back to the policies of the previous administration, the stay in Mexico policy, complete the wall, and tighten up our asylum laws. We've got to do all that in order to get this under control. But what does Joe Biden say? He says, well, we're just not ready for you yet. Just hold on and we'll be ready for you. Yeah, like they're going to be ready for him. They're literally risking their lives to make that trip through Mexico to come to our border. That's inhumane to even think that someone would suggest that.
Congressman Buddy Carter, thank you for being with us. I really appreciate the time, and thank you for going to the border and bringing this information, sir, back to us. We'll have you back. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Buddy Carter on the job, going to the border, bringing it back. Coming up next.